Hello, creatives. So, why an episode on embodying forgiveness on a YouTube channel that's all about becoming a successful creative? Good question. Well, I've got several reasons for you. The first is, man, do we need to be in a better practice of forgiving ourselves? We're all not going to live up to expectations that we have for ourselves. We're all going to make mistakes and feel like we have failed. And how we carry ourselves through those experiences means everything. It means, are we able to create with joy? Are we able to keep continuing to see our visions through? It's so imperative to practice the forgiveness of ourselves. Um, and, secondly, it's really important where possible. I know there are some instances where it might not be possible, but where possible, to forgive others. And I think most instances, this is a possibility. And it's not about them, it's again about you. Um, when you forgive others, you call back your energy, you call back your power, you become empowered. And, not only other people, but also society. Maybe there needs to be this bigger forgiveness around society and where they have put artists and the messages that we have received. Not because it's okay, but because we don't want to be victims. We want to rise above that and see our creative vision through and help other people to see and feel the things that we imagine. And lastly, this episode is a lot about your nervous system. Your nervous system is constantly dictating what you are doing and not doing. It is constantly dictating that. And getting some tools and some skills and some awareness around that might just unlock and unblock you in ways that you didn't know before. Maybe you're frustrated and you didn't know why. This could be some of um, a massive key to unblocking some of that flow again for you. As creatives, we often live in our heads, this wonderful place of imagination, envisioning, and creating. But our bodies are along for this ride, and caring for them really can open up so much in our creativity. And listening to them can help us to realize that there's so much guidance there for your juicy creative journey, for your own success. So I hope I've convinced you because I think this is a really important topic, and I can't wait for you to pick up something to doodle on and doodle with and dive in with us. Welcome, everyone, to Doodle to Doing. I'm your host, Karen Light, Creative Executive Function Coach and Doodle Empress at How Doodle. And today we are talking about how to embody forgiveness with Somatic Experiencing Practitioner, Sharon Laflamme. Hi, Sharon.
Hi, Karen. Thanks for having me.
Oh, I'm so happy you're here. Can you introduce yourself a little bit for everyone?
Sure. So I am a product of childhood trauma, and I have spent my life healing from it in so many different ways. Probably the most adventurous and the best root cause was when I became a certified somatic experiencing practitioner, and that just moved the needle in my world. And I'm lucky and passionate in supporting other people and healing every aspect of their life, body, mind, and soul. And that's what I'm here. That's my purpose on this earth.
I love the holistic, just all of it together, the integrative approach that you found. And I can't wait to talk more about that with you. To get us into the groove, I want to show you the spirit of a doodle, which I know you're familiar with, but I have a question for you. And my question, Sharon, is which phrase or word is jumping out to you today in regards to our conversation around embodying forgiveness?
Let go.
Right?
Right.
Yeah. Is there anything you want to say about that, or does it speak for itself?
Let go is so profound. It is an experience, which is why I love the work that I do, because it's the experience we have in the body. Let go means I can let go of any thought, anything that I need. I can think of it as 100,000 pound weight that I just let go and I drop it. And remember when you let go of something, how your shoulders just feel that relief, right? That body, the sensation, and letting go is so many dimensions and levels on so many ways. And it's one of my it's like a mantra.
Mm. So you don't just have an intention for today, we have our mantra for today.
Mm.
And I'm just going to invite everybody to play with that while we're going through this doodle cast, and while you're doodling, let go, maybe around these concepts that we're going to talk about with forgiveness, but also just letting yourself go and doodling through it, letting yourself just be present with the doodle and see what happens and what it wants to show you. That's what it makes me think about too, with the way we approach things, is kind of letting go of what we think is the right way or what we should do, and be with what is. So I love that you picked that one.
Yeah, me too.
Well, let's practice that letting go with a warm-up doodle. So I'm going to invite everybody to grab something to doodle on and doodle with. And, one of the things that people often say to me is like, I can only draw a stick figure. So if you can only draw a stick figure, that's perfect, because that's what I'd like you to start with today, is a stick figure. Just any kind of stick figure in the middle of your paper. Go ahead and give yourself a simple one. Here's my lovely stick figure. That's all I got so far. And that's all we need to do for the beginning of this. How's your stick figure coming along? Perfect. Oh, I love the fingers. Love the fingers. Okay. So I'm going to invite you just to play with your stick figure for a little bit. See what you might want to add to it. Maybe you want to play with colors. Maybe you don't know and all you do is trace it. That's okay. But just see what happens when you start playing with your stick figure. What do you want to doodle on it or around it? And practice that letting go, just seeing what happens. Really activating your creative brain here, because we want to put it to good use as we talk about our challenging topic today. So I invite you into a playful space with this. I invite you to let go and not need it to look like anything in particular. And while we're doodling this stick figure, just to think about our wonderful, amazing bodies for a second. They hold so many things. They do so much for us. They experience a lot. Layers and layers that are built up over time in good ways and challenging ways.
That's so true.
There's so much to appreciate. So much mystery to be found there. And while you're contemplating these things, I want you to identify for yourself a person that you might want to practice this forgiveness with. Maybe there's somebody in your life now. It's hard. Maybe they're no longer in your life, but you still are holding on to something there. It could be passed on. Or we could even practice the forgiveness with ourselves, right, Sharon?
That's right. That's often where we need to start, because how can we forgive others if we can't forgive ourselves or know what it is to offer ourselves forgiveness?
Yeah. What is your stick figure? What did it turn out to look like after that?
I was called to work with color. Color kept coming for me, like there needed to be color and access color, and it didn't need to be a shape. It just needed to be color. But the shapes just arrived however they did.
Mm. And do you have any speculations about why you were called to color with this, or it just felt good, which is fine too?
It just felt like that's where I wanted to move, because color can be so helpful in our healing process, just like doodling. And of course, whenever we come up with red, and I didn't even put red, Red is anger, usually. And I didn't even use anger. And anger is a big part of a heart that is not in forgiveness.
Yeah, I immediately thought about that because I did put red on mine, and
Oh,
it's kind of a reddy, orangey, pinky. It's got different shades going on, so that's interesting if we were to look at red with all the shades too, like kind of goes from yellow to red. But yeah, I definitely felt a lot of color as well. And this sort of starts appearing to be like a cape. I don't know, that was just a fun shape. That's the way the shirt wanted to flow, and I went with it, and I was like, maybe there's some superpowers going on here, transforming the red to yellow. That's what came up for me.
got it.
So whoever came up for you, I just invite you to hold it, lightly in your heart. You don't have to be convinced today. 1 hour might not be the magic end all be all for this thing that is hard and challenging, and we recognize that. But we hope that through our time together, maybe it'll at least soften a little bit, or you have some new thoughts or feelings around it. How does that sound? Like a good intention or what? Well, Sharon, let's jump in with a question that I have for you. And, I introduced you as a somatic experience practitioner, which, I think there might be a lot of people out there that don't really know what that means. So could you tell us a little bit more about somatic healing and why it can be an effective modality when working on forgiveness?
Certainly. So, somatic is really referring to the soma, which is the body, our ability to sense. And so much of our life is about sensation. And if you think about, we're really an animal, our nervous system is our animal aspect. And then we got this prefrontal cortex, which is our brain. And we're socialized and to believe that this brain is know all, everything. But our body really has the ability to sense, feel energy, to feel people. It is how we build our nervous system when we're growing up and little people. Our nervous system is everything. Willpower and thoughts cannot override a nervous system. A nervous system tells you if you're safe or not. So for many people, we are traumatized early. We have overwhelming sensations that get stuck in us, and that's in the biology of the body. And so in somatic experiencing, we work with the body's physiology to release the negative, dense energy, pain, unforgiveness, abandonment, shame, anger, terror that is stuck in the body, because a little tiny nervous system cannot, without an adult processing it, can't regulate itself. Baby crying cannot regulate itself. It needs an adult. And that's how trauma gets stuck. We don't have somebody there to support these overwhelming feelings. And so therefore, as a somatic experiencing practitioner, I support people building the nervous system of safety, where we heal in a parasympathetic state, because our bodies are meant to heal, Karen. They just are. We have everything we need if we're in a safe, relaxed, calm space. We're not meant to be up here in an unsafe, activated, stressed state.
Yeah, I just think the reason I really was excited to have this conversation with you is, a lot of my work is around like executive function issues. And a lot of people come into this work thinking, oh, we just come up with like concrete strategies. And what often will happen if all you do is try to apply a new strategy, maybe sometimes that works. That's all somebody really needed. They just needed a little help. Their nervous systems were okay, right? Like, so they got the strategy and they moved on with their lives. But often the people who are showing up, they find that it's applying that might work for a minute, if they're lucky, if they were able to apply it. And then it falls apart, right? Like it doesn't work. And then what happens is they get into more failure loops, which of course is then carried around with them. And, and so much of what I want to talk about with people is like the deeper thing that's going on. What's going on? How are you feeling this? Where's your, do you tense up when I say these things? What does your stomach feel like? Or, so that they can start to feel in their bodies, oh, I'm having these reactions. So even if my head is saying, that's a really good strategy and we're going to do that, my body is screaming, oh no, we're not doing that. Like something about it just isn't right because it doesn't feel okay with it. Right. So,
And that's one of the points I love to make is the nervous system determines how we perceive and how we see and how we feel all the time.
mhm,
So if we are somebody who grew up in a secure relationship, we think the world loves us, we're safe, we're happy, and we are loved. And we go out there knowing the world loves us, people love us. That's our perception. But if you grew up in an insecure attachment, you didn't get your needs met. You grow up thinking, I'm not loved, I'm not safe, the world is scary. And from that perception, we see things completely different, and unforgiveness can settle into that scared, closed heart because we see everything as a threat from this state. We see
mm,
everything as open and good for me in this state.
mhm. Yeah. And so when we are in a closed space, what I hear you saying that like stress, fight or flight, tight space, we're in a fear-based space, and there isn't sort of the openness, or even maybe, the mind does play into this, right? Like the clarity of mind to look at something differently. Do you feel like forgiveness too, or unforgiveness is related to like almost like a belief about ourselves that is more to do with us than anybody else? Like even if, yes, there was bad behavior done, right? But our own unforgiveness, our own inability to let go might have
Mhm.
something more to do with us and our state.
Always. It's
Yeah.
always about us and how we believe. And our beliefs are created from our experiences. So if mom wasn't there attending to your needs, I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy enough. I'm not loved. I'm abandoned. I must not be good enough for anybody if I wasn't good enough for them. And
Mhm.
and that all is the perspective again of where we're coming from. And just like you said, the mind with clarity, well, interestingly enough, trauma disassociates us from our body because we can't feel it. We have to shut it down. And also cuts off our prefrontal cortex, our ability to really function at high functioning levels. It is shut down so that we can survive, because all that's important is survival in a fight or flight state. And a nervous system that's always thinking it's in danger because it's never had the support is always looking at everything as a threat and as danger. And it can't think clearly.
Right. Right. And if those are our beliefs, then when somebody does have bad behavior towards us, there's a part of us that is like, oh, I deserve that. But we don't want to also feel that either. Right. So instead, it's projected
On them.
on them.
Yep.
And you're left a little powerless to do anything about that in that state of mind as well. So that is a heavy load. And I know you have a little activity that you really like to walk people through to give them a small sense of that. So we're going to do that with our doodling now, which is I want you to just take that lovely stick figure. We're going back to that lovely stick figure. You could pick the same marker, you could pick a different one, whatever you want to do. But what I do want you to change up is put your marker or your pen or whatever it is in the opposite hand than what you typically draw with, right? This is
Your
pretty,
non-dominant hand, the one
yeah, non-dominant.
that
Unfamiliar, non-dominant is what you said, yes? Okay, and now I just want you to try to draw that stick figure again. It doesn't have to even look exactly the same, but let's try to recreate it for a minute. And I want you to notice what you're feeling and thinking while you're doing that. I can hardly talk while I'm doing it.
Mm.
I'm used to talking and doodling, but nope. Oh man,
Ah.
notice a real difference when I'm trying to color even more than drawing.
And can I invite the audience to practice a little other things while they're
Yeah,
doodling?
please.
So I'm going to invite you to think of somebody that really saved you, that really came and helped you when you needed help or support, or forgave you for something that you couldn't forgive yourself for, or you needed forgiveness, or somebody that's really showed up for you and helped you. And while this is in your non-dominant hand, notice what happens to the pressure that you're applying, to the sweeping motion in this, and how quickly it works. Notice how you may feel differently sitting in your chair if there's more expansion in your body to move with fluidity as you think about that wonderful acceptance of this person giving you that gift. Notice how tightly you hold your instrument. And if there's like a loosening because that gift of that thought of somebody really offering you such a gift.
That was an interesting experience. I loved it. So what came up for me, this is my figure. And it was really fun actually, because at first I was like trying to even talk while doing it, struggling to do that, moving really slow, really having to concentrate on the lines. Yeah, I could definitely feel the pressure right here in my finger. And then as you started inviting me into those things, I don't know, she just became more playful. I was just drawing curly cues and I was giving her little tassels on her shirt and she had stripes. Like I no longer cared about like I drew over it and I was like, oh, they're stripes, and like just fun filling in her shoes. Like it felt much more like I was in a childlike, playful place with it, of just letting it unfold, just being in a, like this is drawn with my other hand and she's super sweet. There's nothing wrong with her, but like, this is very much more, I let go a lot more with those prompts. So
That's amazing. And that childlike state is exactly the parasympathetic place, allows us to be left and right brain balanced. It allows us to be creative, risk-taking, and feel insightful. And just as we imagined, like when I first started with my non-dominant hand, I just started wiggling and I felt like, ooh, ooh, ooh. And then as I imagined somebody bringing me their acceptance and their love and their attention and offering me these gifts, I could feel that same fluidity opening. I can feel softness coming. I could feel just movement changing. My whole body just felt that much more open and receptive, because that's where we are in parasympathetic. We're open and receptive to receive love and goodness in the world instead of closed and tight and contracted, ready to fight.
mhm. Yeah, so hopefully you all kind of felt that a little bit, got to notice that difference. And we're going to play with that a little bit more in our conversation. And before we do another doodle experience, Sharon, I would love it if you kind of explained a little bit how this somatic healing process actually works. Like, like a client comes to you and they want to do some somatic healing, and maybe there's some issues there with forgiveness. How do you approach that? How does this modality work for them?
The easiest way for me to explain it is by having them experience it, which is why it's called somatic experiencing. So we start by learning how we normally are. And many of us are high stress, highly activated. And the big word is anxious. Well, when you hear someone say, I'm anxious, that is your body telling you you're not safe. You're
Mm,
prepared and ready. The stomach twists, because these are all signs when we are not safe. The body makes every system in your body respond. So first we need awareness, right, Karen, that, oh, I'm living in this highly anxious state, but probably that's all I've ever known. So I didn't know there was another state. So now we create the intention of learning, oh, let's do another state. So I often take them through a guided somatic meditation experience, like, and then they notice their body softens, settles, is allowed to release and relax and open to places that they often do not know and didn't know. And now we develop that. We encourage, and a lot of this work is done. We encourage, get into this space every day. This is how you train a nervous system. You do it every day and you build the pathways, because you wrote so much with your dominant hand that you know how much pressure it needs, how to grasp it, everything. But your non-dominant hand, you didn't do it. You didn't practice it. It doesn't have all that intricacy. We're going to train the nervous system to know safety, to feel safe, to know how it is to be relaxed and calm. And for many people, relaxed and calm means I'm vulnerable and unsafe, because I've learned that I'm not safe unless I'm prepared to fight, right? And then we retrain, and we learn, and we build a nervous system that knows that I'm more whole, I'm more connected, and I'm more my true authentic self when I've got both aspects, my parasympathetic place of being, state of being, and then I can rise up if there is a threat to an activated sympathetic state of being. So we really need to experience what it's like and start training the body to get there. And that's how we started out, really, is to know and be aware and build that parasympathetic nervous system.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like you don't know what you don't know. So if you've never experienced it, how would you know what you're shooting for? So yeah, I could see how that would be the process of like, let me just give you the experience, you name it, and then we work on the rest. It kind of makes me think about like if you go on a retreat or have some sort of peak experience like that. It's like you didn't know you could feel or access those parts of yourself or dream that big. And then you come back to your regular life and it's so easy for things to take over, and you have to like build the practice in of going into that space every day, you
And
know?
then, and once you've built that, and this isn't like, oh, I'll do it once and I'll do it. No,
Right.
I mean, it takes years. Just like in first grade, your writing was a lot different than in grade school, and then in middle school, and then in high school, right? Our nervous system develops these deep senses. The same with the parasympathetic. The deeper you can build this, the deeper we have body awareness, the deeper we feel everything. We're actually connecting to ourself, our body, which is one of our greatest resources, not necessarily the brain. And so developing that, we get a deeper sense of awareness of so much, and so much more clarity too.
Yeah, and what do you notice when people do this work around forgiveness? What are things that you notice happens for them, or changes that start happening for them?
Well, I think one of the biggest ones that people will say, they'll admit to, is I'm sleeping better, I'm feeling better. I a lot with eating, it's either digesting better, or my daily constitution just feels stronger. I feel more vital and whole. And those things develop as we start feeling better. But that opens up the space. As we feel better, we notice that other people treat us better, right? It's the perception thing. The safer I am, the safer you are to me,
Mhm.
the safer everything is. So the forgiveness happens as our heart opens, but that really happens when we feel safe.
Mm.
We have to feel safe with ourselves, which we started with. We have to be safe with ourselves first, safe enough to be vulnerable enough to open the heart.
Mhm.
And so therefore, so much has happened in the body system. to be that safe, we have had so many transitions. Blood pressure will go down, thinking comes back, eyesight gets clearer, hearing gets clearer. All these things change when we're under a survival state. Our digestion shuts down when we're under threat. Our cardiovascular system becomes very hyper prepared to fight. And when every system comes into calm, safety, and relaxation, it all flows in harmony and symphony, and you feel like a different person. You see things differently, and everybody sees that differently. So if they had autoimmune stuff, because it will show up like that, or addictions, those start going away because you don't need them anymore, because the body is safe and is okay. So that everyone sees it a little differently depending on what system gets the most affected for them, when they're under stress.
Yeah, that makes sense. And it makes me think about another doodle prompt that I think would be nice for people because of what you said about like having the experience, like almost like a touch point, right? So I want to invite people to think about what makes you feel safe. Like what brings that feeling of safety to you? And let's just do a doodle about that for a minute.
And notice, people, what you can let go of as you're doodling. Notice if you can soften or let go of tension in the body or tension in the hand. Notice if you can feel your hand moving with more fluidity, if you can actually feel the paper, feel the pen into the paper. Notice how as you change maybe pressure or how quickly you do it, how that all changes what happens inside of you.
How you doing over there? Feeling complete? Yeah.
Mhm.
What did you draw for your safe place?
Well, I'm not this artistic doodler, but I had the sun.
Perfect artistic doodler.
The sun first showed up, but I don't know why it's so low. Maybe it's sunset, but then trees and nature. I mean, for me, that is so healing and safe to be around the energies of the earth and the electromagnetic energy of the earth. And so that's what I doodled, and I played with it. I went fast, I went slow. I felt into, how do I feel like when you're looking at beautiful art, right? And your beautiful creations in your book, you just notice something changing and shifting. And I gave myself time to notice as I glanced at the sun, remembering how it feels when the rays are hitting me and the warmth is hitting me and how it feels.
Yeah. The sun, the placement of it makes me feel like it's helping the tree grow. Like it
Yeah.
really does, like it's supporting its growth. And I think, can I see your tree for one more second? Yeah, I love because it's almost like you have the layers of leaves, like it's expanding. The tree is expanding with those rays and even like, I don't know, another layer to that I'm sort of, if this were my doodle, right? Like, because the rays on it look red to me. Like, even like how that anger is so activating. Like if we know if we feel safe enough, right, to really feel our anger and be able to move with it, it can be such a growth process. It can be such an important thing. Let's say somebody really hurt you, to stand up for yourself, to draw a boundary, to say no to, or you hurt yourself, to be like, I'm not doing that to me anymore. Like, and it can just that anger can, when it's directed and clear and you're in a safe space to look at it, can be such a gift in that way.
And to feel it, because
Mhm.
we aren't socialized how to deal with our healthy aggression. You know, animals, you see them play rough, cats, dogs, that's healthy. You play with it, you learn to own it. It is your power. But we become powerless with our anger here because we learn really quickly. If I show this, I'm in trouble. And we don't have anyone that supports our ability to feel this anger. And anger is there because we were violated in some way, we're upset some way, and often we aren't allowed to express it.
Mhm.
And that's the wonderful stuff about somatic work is when we're safe, all the wounds come up and we start to know it's okay to feel all of it, even the stuff we wouldn't even allow ourselves to feel.
Yeah. I think that's such an important thing to reiterate. Like, healing gets this a notion around it that it's once you're healed, like you'll just be healed first of all, right? It's instead of this being an ongoing lifelong process, but you'll be healed and then you won't feel bad anymore. And it's the healing that allows you the space and the safety and the trust and all of that to have it all, to have all the experiences that you have going on in these crazy inner worlds and move with it. Like, use it, find the value in that information because it's such valuable information. All of those negative emotions, they get a bad rap.
Oh, totally. And so many therapists and people, I mean, we all want people to feel good, but they'll say, oh, go do this or go do that. And it's like, go feel better. But if we don't have the capacity to feel, we can't receive love. We can't receive good stuff. We have to build that in order to really feel good. And that, and so many people say, I went around feeling like a failure because I couldn't meditate or I couldn't do this or it didn't bring, right, because we didn't have the capacity for the nervous system to take it in yet. And so feeling good is really one of the aspects of healing, right? Is that we can experience all the feel good stuff in this world because most of us don't. We've cut it off.
Mm-hmm. Well, if you can't feel the bad, you can't feel the good. They work together. It's just depth of feeling, just
Yeah.
depth of feeling and experiencing that aspect. And like I feel like the feeling good is that we talk about in healing is such a deeper experience of those words. It's not like feeling good means I'm always happy and energetic. Feeling good just means like, to me, it means like overall, I feel satisfied and I trust life, like, and I
Yeah.
trust myself to just kind of, do what that I'm experiencing, what I need to experiencing and having, you know,
Yeah.
those experiences for a reason. And like, so just feeling like I can trust life and that I'm overall satisfied. It doesn't mean I feel great every day or I don't get tired or I'm
Right.
not stressed ever. Cause that's another thing I don't want to be, and I hear you saying this and I just want to like amplify it, right? Like it's not for myself too. Like it's not about feeling less stress. It's kind of your capacity. We use the word capacity, your capacity for holding it and being with it and seeing what needs to happen there for you. Yeah.
Exactly. And both ends of the spectrum, we can have, as we were talking about building that nervous system, we deepen the ability for having joy and pleasure. But it can be too much if it's done before we're ready. And we also deepen the capacity for pain. But I have a secret that people don't realize that every emotion is a wave, just like every color is a wave, every sound is a wave. We are electromagnetic beings that process this. It's trauma when we can't process it and get stuck. But every emotion should take about 90 seconds to move through. And as we heal, we will experience this pain. But if we've let and trust our body to move it through, 90 seconds, it's over. You watch a little person that's fallen down and cried, and they go through their process, and in 90 seconds, it's over. They're back on their feet, and it's okay. That's the way we were designed to be. We're designed to stay in pretty much a pleasurable state. When we hit a bump, we feel it, we move it through, it's over.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. I remember the first time I heard how fast we're supposed to be able to move through emotions. And I was just like, whoa, like, huh? Like, but we without moving through it, it's stuck in us if we're not safe. And so this is what came up for me in my safe space.
Oh, look.
That's what came up first and foremost, because I think it's something. I have a lot of ideas now in my life and feel safe in a lot of ways, but I think this was really my first one for me that really felt safe, which is just me making art, listening to music, no matter what was happening, before I could even have a conversation about healing or somatic or knew what any of that stuff meant. I knew I felt safe here. Like I could process my emotions here. I could make art about it if I needed to. And it felt safe to me because it wasn't literal. So I didn't literally have to say exactly what was happening, but like I still felt that it was expressed, which I think sometimes is the most important thing when you're trying to move through something, is the expression.
Yeah. I'm curious how many times when you would get at your easel and have your music and you're setting your nervous system up to feel safe here. These are things that resource you and make you feel good, that you might have that insight, that clarity, that idea shows up, right? Because you're now receptive to it and there's no resistance to it.
Yes. Yeah, I love what you just said, because it's something that I've talked about a lot. It's that setting up of the environment, it creates the creative container. Like you've got to create the container, and you're saying it, somatically. I haven't really, talked about it on that kind of level, but that is what's happening, right? Like we're putting all these cues in place that tell our nervous system, our brain, that it's like, this is a safe space for what we're about to do. This is everything you need. You're good here, and
Yep.
literally, yes. I mean, music, right? Music can do so much for our states and our emotions and processing. I just, having my books around, I put books in there because I was like, that's something about that aspect makes me feel inspired. Even if I'm not reading them, I'm getting the energy of the lovely words and knowledge contained within, or remembering when I did read it, and that's when the creativity will just start running through, start running
Yep.
through. So hopefully you all have identified the safe space, and just really inviting you the way that Sharon and I just did now, like really looking for those cues and clues hidden within that doodle that can help you with that intentional process of creating a space for yourself. Just, when you can, if you can just do it for 5 minutes in the morning, or you get to it once a week on the weekend, at least returning to it to kind of start resetting some stuff. That's something sounds like you can just do on your own, right? It's always empowering.
Yeah. It's, it's always on your own. It's you connecting to your body. And even if you just stop for a moment and notice how you breathe, notice, because the breath will tell you exactly how you feel, what state you're in. Am I stressed? Am I anxious? Am I relaxed? Am I open? Am I totally safe? Your breath will tell you. And just putting that attention and awareness on your breath and noticing, you've made a little connection. And oftentimes getting into that body, you've put out the rest of the world and you've come into a safe place.
Mm-hmm. I love that you're really speaking to simplicity here too. Because a lot of us have this idea that it has to be very complicated. And of course, it's helpful to speak with people who know about it so you understand why things are happening and to guide and support you. But I don't know, it's always a relief for me to realize, oh, it's simple things. It's simple things.
And, you know, when you said that, I thought, yes, because we have everything we need here.
Mhm.
Somehow, because of our socialization and the way we are trained and brought up, we feel broken, we feel traumatized, we feel everything, but we have everything we need. It's in that parasympathetic state, it's in that connections, it's it's everything we need is right here. You've got it. You've got everything you need. You just need to start paying attention and be with yourself. And you're whole. You're whole, you're infinite, you're everything.
Yes, yes, yes. Woo! All right, so we're gonna go into another doodle, 1 minute quick doodle here. And I want to preface this by talking about a lovely model of change that I like to work with and share with my clients, which is called the Transtheoretical Model for Change. Because a lot of times when we think about changing things or doing something different, we often feel like we're failing if we're not taking action. And this model really recognizes that there are 3 phases actually before any action is had, especially for something big. And, forgiveness is a big thing. It's not something you're gonna, somebody says you should forgive this person and you're like, okay, done, right? Like it's a thing. It takes some time. And 2 of the phases that I spend a lot of time with clients in are contemplation. Isn't contemplation lovely, right? Just to be contemplative about something, to really ponder it, be curious. And another one is preparation. What does it, what would it look like to do something different or to change something or to forgive someone? Doesn't mean you have to do it. You're just literally sort of setting up, your brain and your nervous system in a way when we prepare, right? It makes you feel like there's a path that you've thought through and you feel a little safer to take a step on it. And so with that in mind, I want you in that contemplative space with maybe a little hint of preparation. We're going to do a doodle around what forgiveness could mean for you in your life. And just as Sharon has been doing, she's going to give us some prompts while we're doing that so you can really feel into it. But I want you to imagine how your life might be different if you were able to forgive someone or yourself. And don't overthink it. Let go and just doodle for a minute and let's see what happens as we do that.
And did you want me to speak while we're doodling?
Yeah, you're welcome to share anything you want to, anything you think might be helpful to help us feel into this imagining and experiencing.
Yeah, so that contemplative part is just imagine that you are willing to consider forgiving yourself for something that you've been holding against yourself. And just notice as you hear that, what shows up in your body. Is there some softening somewhere where I can consider this? I could consider forgiving myself and not holding this. And notice how you're holding your instrument as you're thinking about this, and how maybe as you're sitting in the chair, how that might shift and change as you're considering letting go this grudge against yourself and this resentment that you're holding and this belief that there might be something really bad about you, or the anger that is stored inside. And imagine that you are letting go. Like there's this cord being cut of unforgiveness towards myself, and now sweet kindness and compassion towards myself, an opening to loving myself unconditionally, to freeing myself from the pain of holding myself up to this standard that I didn't live up to, and how I'm still loved and honored and accepted by myself.
Mm.
Just start to notice if you see any shifts in the way your doodle shows up, in the way you feel internally, and how that transitions from an internal space to what shows up on the paper space. And you could even switch hands again and see if there's a shift or a change. As you know, I'm going to let this go, or I have started to let it go. I've let it drop away.
Oh, that was good. I feel like I just started a doodle that I'm gonna want to work on for a while. Like that's gonna be like one of the ones I keep developing through the week. This is the image that showed up for me.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Very bright, so I'm trying to but yeah, the first thing I just saw was just this big, expansive heart. The color I chose was green, which I think is fun because I associate that with the heart chakra. And all this light sort of flooding in and like spirals, and it's moving. Like there's a lot of movement. It's not a very static heart. But it's definitely something that I want to continue to play with. Because I'm really enjoying, and I think that's an indication too, right? Like I'm really enjoying how the doodle is going. So I think it's something that could help move some of that through me as I continue to work on it.
I love that. I'd like to share something. I
Yeah.
didn't because I was talking so much,
Mhm.
but before we got together, I always set an intention, and I had this vision. And you know how DNA has these spirals, DNA? And I said, let's bring Karen's light and my light together. And I immediately had this vision. So I decided to doodle it real quick.
Yeah.
But what I got out of this, because I know primary colors, right? So if you have a red and you have a yellow, when they combine, right, we get a new color. So
Mhm.
when your light and my light combine today, we get a whole new color, with whole new experience, a whole new set of DNA.
Yes, we get a lovely warm orange to lean into. It feels like a nurturing color to me. So
Yes. Yeah,
yeah,
that's
very beautiful.
totally.
I'm glad you shared that. So hopefully, there's something in your doodle too that you find, it doesn't have to change your mind. You don't have to go out and do anything yet, but hopefully there's something in there that felt like a little more lighter to you, or felt like a little bit more peace, or felt sort of intriguing or inspiring, or, words that come up around mine. There's a bit of a freedom in it that I think about. Like this feels like the wind, and it's kind of like a kite. It's like flying away or something. And just hold that as a possibility for yourself in what you're considering, right? And if you're starting to feel some, maybe you ponder that in your safe space. If you're feeling a lot of tightness or fear around that. So let's, I want to do one more doodle, but it's going to be a longer one. So I want everybody to get kind of comfortable in your spot for a second. Take your markers out of your hands, put your paper down, and just sort of feel your sits bones relax into your chair. And let's start simple, just like Sharon said, by noticing our breath and taking some nice, juicy, nurturing breaths. If it helps you, you can use the mantra, let go, or you could say, I'm safe. I'm safe to let go, maybe putting them together. Just feeling your body expand with each inhale and relax with each exhale. And in this peaceful place of observation, I want you to bring to mind two of the doodling experiences that we had. We had the doodling experience where you were holding your utensil in your non-dominant hand. Maybe that felt harder, or more pressure, frustrating. Then we had the experience of contemplating what forgiveness could mean for you in your life. What feelings came up for you around that? So probably between those two experiences, you have had quite a spectrum of thoughts and emotions. And in your mind's eye, I want you to imagine that you're going out into your day, your week, going to work, interacting with people, trying to do things that matter to you from the experience of that was similar to drawing with your non-dominant hand. You're carrying around the unforgiveness. How does that affect how you show up for yourself and others? Now, just for a second, I want you to dream real big with me that we're all showing up in the world from a place of safety, forgiveness, openness, where we are practicing forgiveness to ourselves and others. And imagine the impact that would have on the world around you and the world. What images start popping up in your mind as you imagine that impact? And as you start to see something, I'm going to invite you to blink your eyes open. We're going to have a bit of a longer doodle around this. Just want you to follow whatever inspiration popped up there. Not worrying about where it's going, letting the doodle surprise you, enjoying it. You can play with some of the things that Sharon taught us. You can play with your other hands. You can play with noticing how the paper feels, how fast you're moving, your pressure. See what unfolds. All right. Again, I might have to play with this doodle for a while, but I'm going to be at a good stopping point. I've already had one epiphany. So what came up for you as you were doodling around this?
Your invitation to imagine the world and offering ourselves forgiveness and the world being in this forgiveness. I just felt puffy white clouds, a big blue sky, expanded wide, no limitations, full possibilities to expand, the sun shining and expanding that openness, just this openness to be. Because guess what? You're enough the way you are. You're good enough. You're bright and brilliant. You're shining light. And just all of us being able to shine our light. And it just felt so expansive that I found myself struggling to even hold. I just would go like, I don't even want to do this. I just want to let go.
You're just in a yummy space already.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the just, looking at it too, for meaning, like the lines in there, there's so much motion, there's so much energy radiating through the lines of your sky, like, which is interesting to me because I think, often we think of a blue sky and it's peaceful, but like, man, peace comes because we are moving things around, like, because
Let it go.
yeah, and letting it go and just like letting it move us. And the wind, maybe we're not seeing it, but whew, is it doing things, So I love that. And yet you could just hitch a ride on one of those clouds.
Oh, yeah.
Just hitch a ride and let the wind do its thing, and you're soft and taken care of. And isn't that beautiful to have that? That's what it really spoke to me. It's like, it felt like the clouds to me say, you're taken care of. You have a warm, safe space to move through all the currents with, Yeah.
Right.
Yes. Beautiful.
So
So
what should
this is what was coming up. Kind of interesting. And so the pink parts I added, when I was saying I can't find pink. And when I added them, I realized what it was speaking to me about was almost telling the story of like, being able to ride these waves sort of transforms the pain or the hurt, and we get to expand, go deeper or go wider, depending on which way you're riding that spiral. And it almost feels like a transformative portal that's sucking the chaos into it, just being like, come on in here. Like, let's just transform that for you. And then it makes me curious, like I need another thing over here. Because now, on the other side of the portal, I don't
And I
know.
love the color choices too. It's so beautiful. I love the spiral. I mean, those just feel, they could be the tension and contraction, but they could also be the opening and release and letting go, right? It's the yin and the yang.
Deepening too. Like it could be the deepening of like going and getting into the mystery.
And then you've got the vortex, right? So there's this big opening here and it comes down to this narrow part, which can be so meaningful.
Yeah, I didn't think about that way. That's cool too. And oh yeah, I just think there's so much, also the spiral for me, I use it a lot when I'm thinking about, like, I want to represent creativity, because to me, that's the feeling of being creative. And it's kind of interesting because I mentioned like the Transtheoretical Model before too, for change. And the way I draw that and show it to my clients is a spiral, not a circle, but a spiral, because you're going to come back around to things. And just a last question that's sort of, or an idea that I would love to hear you speak about for a second as we're wrapping up here. But to me, sometimes it feels like forgiveness happens in spirals. Like you heal a little part and you go on and then it comes up again, something triggers it, like I think about like going through a divorce, years ago, like, I would get to a space where I'm like, oh, okay, I'm breathing, it's good, I'm okay. And then something would trigger it and I would feel feelings again of like, resentment and rah, 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 anger, rah, rah, rah. then I'd have to work on letting go again and releasing and forgiving on a deeper level and like coming back around, I don't know. It's kind of interesting, right? Like, and that's how I see the Transtheoretical Model for Change too, is that like, we're going to keep going through all these phases, but nature grows in spirals. We grow in spirals.
Yeah, we do. And we build our muscles in spirals. We build everything. Because if you think about the spiral too, remember the slinky or any spring? A spring is energy, right? A spring takes force. And we have to have that force, whatever it is, negative energy, a positive feeling, but we have to put that force onto it to give it the space to then expand. It won't expand out until we put the force onto it.
I love that you're saying that. It was so funny. My partner, he was just using a metaphor a couple of weeks ago of like a springboard. He's like, this is just a springboard moment, like just things feel down, but it's just gonna spring up, and yes. So I think there's a lot of room, in this process of forgiveness for it being a messy, non-linear ride, like it's just a messy, non-linear ride.
And the experience is to feel, really, to be open and not be resistant, to feel things that you don't think you should feel, things that you have forbid yourself to feel. Allow all the feelings, no judgment, just allow the feelings. And they ebb and flow. They spring in, they spring out.
Yeah. Like, notice if you're even in judgment about this conversation, like I should be able to forgive somebody, right? Like how fast that could just come in and undermine this whole process.
And then when we're told that by our religions or somebody, forgive your brother or whatever, or just do it. We don't give ourselves the time and space to actually feel ourselves. That's how we build that resentment, right? Because we're told to do it. Now I have to look like I did it. But I didn't do the processing. I didn't do the feeling. I just showed up the way I was supposed to show up. So they think that I did it.
Yeah. So I wish for you all so much space to just let the process be what it is for you. Let it unfold how it unfolds for you. And just to let yourself imagine, that you could feel safe enough to let it move through you in whatever way it needs to. I think that is just a really beautiful thing to ponder for each of us, like contemplate, like just letting that be. It makes me take a deep breath. See what happens?
That's regulating.
That thought was very regulating. So hopefully that was regulating for you too. Oh, thanks so much for this. It was beautiful, Sharon, and a message that is much needed and nurturing for people. And I'm glad you're out there sharing it. I really appreciate you.
Well, I'm so honored and privileged to be here. I want to thank you. And I want to tell everybody that's out there, how do you want to feel, right? How do you want to feel? And it's up to you, right? And if you want some help and suggestions, I have a YouTube channel filled with all kinds of ideas on how to change your nervous system over with real-time experiences to support you in feeling better in your body and find that state of parasympathetic, calm, relaxed vitality.
Yeah, and I'll include her links so you can find her on YouTube. And also I'm going to include a link for her course that she is doing in combination with Deborah Kozik on making friends with forgiveness. So if this is a topic that you feel really called to, there's a beautiful offering there for you as well to check out. And thanks so much for watching and doodling along with us. I always love to hear and see what you create, so don't hesitate to reach out any way you want to. I'm around. You'll see my social media links, or you can go to howdoodle.com and send me a message. Love hearing from you. Until next time, I hope you keep cultivating that safe space to explore and feel everything and let your own experiences unfold and teach you amazing things for your life.